Brought to us by CrestCars.com.
Thanks, Miller Man. It's a story I didn't get to last week because I was so busy with important things. But the story must be commented on, and the Musers have to chime in on the case of Christopher Pagano. He is the 41-year-old man who is allegedly Philadelphia's Swiss cheese pervert.
Never heard of that.
You haven't heard of this. Okay, so this guy, a heavyweight, middle-aged man, he drives around and pulls up alongside a woman, a female, and he will then show his stuff and hold out a piece of Swiss cheese and then put it down on himself and use that on himself and ask her if she'll do it for him. Why is your brow so furrowed here, Giorgio?
I just don't know how somebody gets that twisted.
It's a common sexual fetish,
No,
right?
not.
So he was also arrested, and they arrested him again, by the way, and when they originally went to his door, he said he denied being the Swiss cheese pervert, and he said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Sometimes people confuse me with somebody else." Pretty good little defense there.
Yeah.
So, but they arrested him, and they also arrested him in 2006 and 2009 for allegedly propositioning women on the street to pleasure him with blocks of Swiss cheese.
Has to be Swiss.
Has to be Swiss. Yes. Matter of fact, he used to have a profile on OkCupid, and several women have come forward and delivered their evidence of that he is the Swiss cheese pervert, because he would send them messages concerning this, and he explained why he has the Swiss cheese fetish. He said, quote,
"So I developed this fetish to help me deal with my sexual urges."
I can't understand you. You need to say it in your own voice.
"So I developed this fetish to help me deal with my sexual urges. I found that women tend to like dairy products and settled on cheese to represent the girl. Thus, I started having sex with the cheese. I love the way Swiss feels against my penis, either as slices of Swiss cheese being wrapped around the penis, or a chunk of Swiss cheese being rubbed against my penis."
He goes on to say, "Swiss is the best. I tried many different kinds of cheese, like American, provolone, Cheese Whiz,
God.
cheddar, but I settled on Swiss as the best." You would think he would have liked Jack. He says, "I love even more when a woman uses the Swiss cheese to pleasure me, or simply wraps Swiss cheese slices around my greenus and allows me to hang out with her as I just wear the cheese."
Just wear it?
Yeah. So she affixes it to him, and then they just hang out and just talk. He says he likes its eye patterns, its textures, and everything, and he prefers Swiss cheese love to regular, old-fashioned, godly love.
The psychiatrist could have a field day with him.
You think?
Why can't we just go back to old school news where 30 years ago this would have been reported as someone guilty of several perverted acts is, up on charges?
Well, we need to know
now we have to have these details, what kind of cheese, what he does with it.
He says when he was younger, he had a lot more stamina for cheese grecs. Quote,
"I was able to wrap and wear a good 1.5 pounds of Swiss cheese against my greenness, and wear the Swiss cheese for hours at a time before I would climb it from just having the Swiss cheese on my penis."
We only have so much time here on Earth. This guy is clearly wasting, and we're wasting our time.
how is he wasting time?
You just detailed it for the last 4 minutes how he's wasting his time.
All right, but let me offer this.
How is this helping his fellow man?
If he wasn't doing the whole,
It's kind of helping the cheese industry.
If he wasn't exposing himself to women, okay, and he's just asking women voluntarily to do this in the course of their own dating and their own love lives, then what's wrong with that? How is that wasting time?
Yeah, I guess that's what flips the switch, and he can find someone to love cheese as much as he does. Then
he says, one last note: I do not like cheese, except for mozzarella, and that is the one cheese I've never used on myself.
He doesn't want to spoil it.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. Mozzarella.
See, George, if we went back to old school reporting, wouldn't this segment be incredibly boring if Gordon just came on here and said someone has been arrested for sexual perversion in the Seattle area and had no more details?
Now that's a weird. Have you ever known someone?
We'd be behind the fan if that was the case.
Have you ever known more than 2 or 3 people that had a cheese fetish?
No.
Do you have the makings of a grilled cheese here?
What does that mean? What does that mean?
The makings of a grilled cheese.
And then the other story, this is called Gordo's Late to the Game Party. This is a new segment. Stories that have been talked about, but we haven't talked about them. And that is the knockout game. I think we ought to try this in New York. It's so disturbing. Now, these are the things that really, this disturbs me more than the Swiss cheese guy.
Is the knockout game legitimate? Let me ask you this up front.
Yes, it is.
Or are a lot of these that are posted phony and staged?
Okay, I'm really late to the game. What the heck are you guys talking about?
All right, the knockout game is a game in which you try to knock out someone in one punch. But it's not just your buddy. It's not 2 guys, hey, let me hit you, you hit me. It's you do it to a random stranger on the street. And frequently it's elderly people.
What?
That you target. You sucker punch them. And you basically, I guess, win the knockout game if you can point them out and knock them out in one punch.
So what happens when you do...
So you're with your buddies, you got a video camera there, your buddy points out the person, selects a person for you, you select them, and then you have to go over to them. And in this one, here's a case from Houston. This guy, Conrad Barrett, a 27-year-old guy, videotaped himself sucker punching a 79-year-old black man in a knockout game. And on the video of it, you can hear him. He approaches the victim and says, "How's it going, man?" And then when the guy starts answering, you hear a loud smack. And the victim falls to the ground. Barrett laughs and says, "Knockout," and then flees. Now, this 79-year-old man lost 3 teeth. He needed surgery to repair his jaw, which had been broken in 2 places.
10 years prison.
And he was hospitalized for more than 4 days.
I'm anti-death penalty, but I was going to suggest the death penalty for someone who does that.
That's unbelievable. And some people seek these out and think this is entertainment.
Oh, yeah. Watch the videos and, oh, man, totally got that guy.
They ought to go to prison, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, you know what? That's true. It's like watching child porn. If you watch child porn on your computer, you go to prison. Same thing. If someone watches these videos, they should go to prison.
So what happens to the guy who not only loses his teeth, but he falls and he hits something on his way down and dies? At that point, we stop playing the game, or is it still funny?
I think there have been episodes of death. There was a 35-year-old guy in Brooklyn involved in 7 knockout game assaults. All of the victims were Jewish women ranging in ages from 20 to 78.
Women and the elderly.
Yeah.
We get in this game real fast. Just round up these dumbasses who are stupid enough to do it and then put it on video and put them in prison for 50 years.
See, I'd like to come out against this game, but I'm afraid that just marks me as old. Maybe we're just old and we just are appealing to civility and the old way of doing things when you didn't knock out strangers for YouTube enjoyment.
There are some politicians who are trying to get this classified as a hate crime and get it on the books.
Good. How about attempted murder?
I think some of these people are charged with hate crimes. This Barrett guy was charged with one because they also found other videos on his phone in which he was using racial epithets. And he was talking about, on one video on his phone, trying to work up the courage to play the knockout game. And he says,
"The plan is to see if I were to hit a black person, would this be nationally televised?"
It's so shocking to me that when I first heard it, and then I almost immediately heard several follow-up stories that most of this was apocryphal.
Right.
And so then I thought, okay, it's so outlandish, it has to be made up. But there are actually people doing this. Not some of them. Some are probably made up, but it is also actually happening in some quarters.
So how do you have the lack of humanity to stare someone in the face, an old man? You go up and you're nice to him, and he smiles and starts to answer you, and you just hit him as hard as you can, then laugh.
That's pure evil.
That's sick.
I don't get it, but it is real. People do play it. Now, I suggest that we play it up here at the Ticket to raise awareness. Just in the halls of the Ticket. We're not going after elderly or anything like that. But, I'll play if you guys want to, at 10:05 today after the show, I'll play the knockout game with Kat. My job is to go into his office and ask him an innocuous question about, hey, what time is Ticket stock? And when he starts to answer, I'll cold cock him.
For these idiots, we kind of already have the knockout game. It's called boxing. Why don't you get some gloves and go downtown and find a gym and get in the ring and have a fair fight instead of picking on a woman or an old man?
That's going to bother me the rest of the day.
Yeah, it should.
It actually happens.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, George.
All right, thanks. That's the corner, 9:30.